many of the things that you ran on last time
Mhm.
were just kind of ideas that were kicked around or things that you had brewing in the back of your mind?
Mhm.
Things like, the holiday village and now the upgraded internet network system. Have you thought about going forward what you would like to see that's in the back of your creative mind that you might be looking to down the future?
I think there's a couple of really great things. I think when we still had the Philadelphia Flower Show, the last time they had that, they did a really interesting thing about accessibility gardens. And having done a lot of work with Kendall Crosslands and my mother-in-law now suffering from dementia, sensory gardens are really, really important for people. And also to have gardens that are kind of contained. So it would be interesting to do sort of sensory garden with like a figure eight path. It would work really well for people both who have cognitive issues, but also people who have developmental disabilities of different sorts. You can actually do raised beds where people can plant lavender and do all sorts of things. And, that might be something that would be fun to see at an area of Barkingfield or maybe in Spar Hill in conjunction with the community agriculture program that's going on there right now. I'm really excited about that too. One of the greatest things about really preserving all this open space, and particularly these former farms, is being able to reuse them for agriculture. And I think this collective that's getting together to be able to farm vegetables and do it so we can feed people in the community through the food pantry is really fantastic. Um, and everybody's really coming together. The farmer that is doing the seeds and everything else, who's been uh, haying those fields and everything else, is going to help in terms of plowing for the garden and helping get that all set up. And Longwood is actually going to help with some irrigation things. So it's another good example of the community coming together to help. All the little trees planted sort of along the pathway. If you drive by Spar Hill, you'll see all the little green cones for the baby trees. That's actually a food forest, so those are all food trees. So,
Oh,
there's lots of exciting things happening
What do
there.
you mean by food forest? What does that mean?
So like apple trees, pear trees,
Oh,
things
cool.
like that. So,
Very cool.
yeah. So I think if we can do some of those things, it has a real tangible long-term effect and really shows people how great preserving open spaces in a really tangible, meaningful way. Not that we don't enjoy the good views and don't enjoy taking a nice walk and everything else, but that's a real tangible return that to the community that I think is really important.
hey, that's cool. Up in Connecticut, where we lived before we came here, they had a field that they leased out to a farmer, and they put walking trails around it. And one section of it every winter, the fire department would flood and turn it into an ice rink.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, so it was, walking paths and things during the summer, and then, community volunteer firefighters turned it into an ice rink in the winter. I don't know about the liability issues or anything. This was just a real small town,
Oh
Right.
yeah.
but I love the thought of the sensory garden. That sounds amazing.
It does sound like a lot of fun. It sounds really useful too.
Well, that's it, and I think where some of our trails, we like them really naturalized. Like I know when I go for a walk through State Line Woods, a lot of those are very small, either mowed trails or sort of dirt trails, and there's rocks and other things to climb over. It's not really accessible to people with disabilities, but we do have a relatively aging population here. We have a lot of retirees in the area. So, something where people who have various mobility issues and everything else, making sure that they have pathways and things that they can enjoy too. It's great. And, that's the great thing about having preserved so much open space, that we can really kind of mix and match things and make sure that that everybody feels included.
A little something for everybody, even the dogs.
Well, that's it. I think we were all hoping that Barkingfield was going to be really successful, but there's not a day I go there where there's not people using it. And I know our dogs have gotten great use out of it. Um, and I think even that little lending library that's there gets great use.
Yeah, it does.
I took great pictures this weekend. There were turkey vultures and some other big birds that were like drying their wings up on the trees. And so there's a lot of wildlife there. There's a lot of fox. The dog loves just going and having lots of smells. And so I
Talk
think,
about a sensory garden. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Um, he-
Everything's
if
a
he could just
sensory
talk and take
garden to a
notes.
dog.
I'm
Right.
sorry, what'd you say, Michael?
I said everything's a sensory garden to a dog.
That's right.
That's
Absolutely.
true. He gets particularly excited when there's rabbits or fox around, though. That definitely makes it more exciting. So
Well, you need to bring Darwin around my house so that he can mark his turf to keep the deer away from all my plants. That would be real nice, real appreciated.
well, and you guys just did something really interesting over where you are now, in terms of having goats come in and eat invasives, and maybe that's something else that we can consider on some of the township properties. It's a really green way to control some of those invasives. Pat, did they charge you a lot to have the goats come, or?
Well, we're still exploring it, so we haven't
Oh,
actually
okay.
done it, but part of the issue, which is kind of interesting, we have a space that used to be wooded, but the trees kind of died out in a mass event, mass suicide, and we had them removed. So what came up was a lot of understory undergrowth and a lot of poison ivy. So the poison ivy started to encroach and choke out a lot of the evergreens that we had planted to screen the road, whatever, from screen the homeowner's view. And so I asked two landscape crews if they would go through it with a weed whacker just to kind of, keep it down. They didn't want to go near it
Right.
because it poison ivy.
Mhm.
It's tons and tons of poison ivy, and maybe one out of I don't know how many people is immune to poison ivy. But so I thought about, so I brought this young guy. They're called green goats. They're guys located in Oxford, and he came out. I still haven't gotten the bid yet on it, but it's really kind of a fun thing. He says, he's got people that really are against Roundup. It's popular in Kennett Township. A lot of people around here with fields like it. So, what the heck? We're gonna see where he comes in. Could be cool.
Yeah, I mean, they've been doing that over at Kendall Crosslands as part of sort of the natural invasive control and everything else. And I think everybody loves it when the goats show up because it's kind of
Well,
cool.
they're really fun to watch. They're silly. It's really it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the more natural ways we can do that, the better off it is. I don't think anybody needs any more Roundup around if they don't need it. But I know
Right.
there's a case in point when you want to use it, but that's a great way to do it. I know you're on the HOA board there. What kind of support can the township give HOAs? I think it's been a really chaotic about a year and a half since we've gotten our new manager, and we're really putting things together. So there's some projects that, because there's bigger emergencies on hold, that we're working on. And one of those things, I think, is trying to get group meeting with the presidents of all the different HOAs, because I think there's a lot of information that the HOAs could share with each other. I know our neighborhood has had horrible problems with stucco. And while it's not the township's burden to do that, if there's things like language about moving from stucco to hardy board or other things that involve code, involve inspections, if we can help guide HOAs with that, and help HOAs share their different experiences, I just think we could benefit from, sharing the knowledge of the commons, really.
Well, I can tell you from the Deerfield HOA point of view, we have an unusual circumstance because we have a lot of open space compared to the number of homes that are in the community. And so we're very interested in the kinds of things, really in land management, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Mhm.
We have a pond, we want to, cut down on erosion, we have stormwater issues. So we need to manage that because, the rains are increasing. What are they're estimating an increase of 10% in rain, I think, going forward. in this area. And so, that's the kind of thing that our particular HOA is really interested in. We don't have any stucco here, so that kind of thing isn't the issue. But really for us, it's stormwater management, it's ponds, it's that kind of generalized information, because we value the open space that we have here. It's really quite beautiful. Um, and those are the kinds of things that I think would be really good if the township had maybe even a section on the website that was just for HOA use, or would be a particular access point for HOAs. Because part of me thinks that an HOA might be hesitant to complain about whatever they've got going on, for fear of outing themselves to township officials, if that could be a problem, I don't know. But people are cagey about that stuff. If there's a problem, they really don't want to share it with the municipality right up front, but they sure would like the information to be able to do the research.
Well, that's it. I don't want anybody to feel like, they're going to confession, but at the same
Right.
time, if we can provide help and provide more uniform help to everybody, it's certainly easier. I mean, particularly in COVID, it's not the way it used to be. Roger and the former police chief and everybody else used to go around occasionally and go to different HOA meetings and just talk about stuff. But I think if we've got a way where we can kind of get everybody together and just sort of have questions and figure out what the common problems are, then we can be more helpful. It's a shame that only people only tend to get you involved when there's a really big problem rather than early on.
Well, I will say this, and just props and shout out to Roger Lyle, who is nothing but helpful.
Oh yeah,
I mean, he lives for service. He's amazing.
he is a community treasure, is what Roger
He
is.
100%. He's really, really great, and he's he doesn't he provides solutions. He doesn't provide obstacles to overcome from a functional point of view. And I find Eden's the same way. Eden's very solution oriented, and is very approachable in that regard as well.
Yeah, he's done an amazing job in terms of really understanding what everybody's issues are when they contact the township, and making sure that then when that issue comes up, or if he's got information, he shares that back out. And I think that proactive communication that he's doing is really, really great. It's something we really haven't had before. And I think it heads off a lot of concerns before they even come up.
I agree. Yeah.
So.
So Whitney, can you give me the 411 on whatever you can share about the internet connectivity and the expanded
Yeah,
broadband?
it's actually really exciting. So I've been going to these Southern Chester County Opportunity Network meetings, oh goodness, since the beginning of COVID. And all the different nonprofits get together and have been sort of sharing what problems and different difficulties they've been encountering, so people can work on solutions together and also not duplicate efforts. And so I started talking with Joan Holiday and Jim Mercanti. And one of the big problems with the learning pods and also in general, where there were a lot of kids that didn't have internet connectivity at home, or the school district was providing hotspots, and there's temporary funding for those. School district's currently spending over $20,000 a month on these internet hotspots. Sorry, I'm also the dog's concierge outside of being everything else. So anyway, so when that funding runs out, the need for internet is certainly not going to run out. And so we were trying to figure out how to solve this problem. And we got together a bunch of municipalities and a bunch of the nonprofits to sort of talk about it. And it became clear that we needed to have a specific ask. So we went back to the drawing board, and it became clear as I started talking to people, that there are some neighborhoods in the area where the whole community was initially wired by whatever the mom and pop cable company was that came in at first. And so those folks, basically, those some neighborhoods are going to have to be rewired. There are some places where there's just really bad cell connectivity. The township building is a great example of that. So, how are we going to fix this and where are really the problems? The school district has an idea of where some problems are, but that really only covers people who have kids in school. It doesn't really cover our seniors. It doesn't cover other people who may not have kids in the school district who still have problems. And as we found out during the pandemic, connectivity is a really big deal. There are a lot of people who are even trying to get COVID shots, and it's really very difficult because they can't connect to the internet. So trying to find a way to fix this is really important. So we started doing a lot of research. We actually got, there are some other communities up in Vermont and other places that have done sort of wide studies to figure out exactly where they have infrastructure challenges, and then they can go through and then have sort of a to-do list and then fix those things. So we decided that that was going to be a good way to go, and we presented it all. We had a very big meeting on March 4th, which included everything from people at the DVRCP to
But
the
is that the
county.
Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'll be speaking at one of their conferences in June about this, so I'm really
Wow.
excited about that.
Yeah.
Um, but and they did a fantastic three-part study about bridging the digital divide and how important that is, both for economic growth as well as meeting everybody's immediate needs. To go to school and work online and everything else, even have governmental meetings and meetings like this one. So, making sure that we've got really good, robust infrastructure is important. If you could have a great house, most beautiful bathroom, looks like a spa, but if you're not connected to the water, it doesn't matter. You can't use the thing. I look at it the same way with the internet. Even if you have a great computer or you've got a device and can connect and you've got the money to pay for a robust connection, you can't do it if the wires aren't working. So we have to figure out how to fix that. Fortunately, this being a nerd for a while, it was relatively easy to make a couple calls, and before I know it, I had one of the Verizon wireless engineers on the phone, and he's already adjusted an antenna and fixed the connectivity issues that are right at 52 in the state line. So that was an easy, cheap win.
Oh, wow.
Some other issues like the connectivity issues that are at Kendall Crosslands, for example, are probably going to require a tower near 926. So that's going to be a more complicated fix. But the study that we've proposed, the county was so enthusiastic about it, they already went and they already secured funding. So we've got $200,000 from the Department of Labor and Industry, and the CCIU is doing the grant. It's the putting out the RFP itself, and they're finishing up the request on that. So we're hoping by early June the RFP will go out, and then hopefully we've got boots on ground and the whole study starting by mid-July.
So, and it sounds like you're ahead of this infrastructure curve, because this was all part of the infrastructure deal. Is that right?
Yeah, there's a lot of things happening that are still happening in DC, but there's a lot of things that are happening statewide too. In fact, I've got a meeting Monday with somebody from Senator Kane's office and some folks from the PUC, trying to figure out how all the new legislation that's going to help people who have economic challenges pay for connectivity at home through this program that's EBB. To do that, but also how can we have shovel-ready projects ready so we can take advantage of funding that's going to free up to make sure that we can, if we have to put towers somewhere, where we can figure that out, or if we need to rewire certain neighborhoods with fiber, we can do that. Really what they're trying to solve is those last mile problems. Like I know that there's folks like Mike Gowdy does a lot of the mowing and everything that happens at Pennock Park and other places around here, and he's a resident. Um, he has a place where he keeps all of his lawnmowers and everything, and he'd really like to put up like a ring cam and some other things, but he doesn't have any connectivity there. He actually shares that building with, of all places, the borough, where on the other part of the building they store a lot of equipment there too, and
Mhm.
their only connectivity is with a Wi-Fi hotspot. So if we can solve this last mile issue, we can use public funding to make sure that buildings like that and different businesses are all hooked up, and they no longer have to, go through a more expensive kind of cellular connection process, but they'll really have broadband accessibility available right there. And again, it's really good for things like safety issues, like using ring cams and things. It's great, obviously, for all sorts of other connectivity that we're using for different projects. And you know, life is about connectivity at this point.
Well, the pandemic has really underscored the need to have this, because between everybody streaming, just binge watching, whatever, and then you've got to work at the same time, it can get funky. Yeah. No, this is all good. Good stuff.
Hey, Lisa, thanks for joining. Did you want to ask a question? Speaking on Miss Lisa Baldwin.
I see that. Doesn't look like she's.
Okay. What about you, Sarah? Did you have anything else?
I did. So I was paying attention, but I was scrolling through my emails here while we're talking. It's been a busy day, so I was just trying to catch up. And I see something from the town that we were awarded 2.1 million grant for 5 Points intersection.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really exciting because that was a couple of years coming. I remember when we were doing the conditional use review of the two new developments, Stonehouse and Sinclair Springs, that have come in right near where 82 and Hillendale come in together. And I know that people were really really worried and concerned about what that intersection would look like with adding all those extra people there. I sort of feel like I have a personal stake there, because there was at one point I was actually on a school trip with my older child to go to Ellis Island. So I'm in the middle of New York, and I get a phone call that John's been in an accident. He was on the school bus, and the school bus was hit by rear-ended right at the 5 Points intersection. So there's
Okay.
nothing like that happening to, send your mom heart pitter pattering. So, nobody was really seriously hurt, but at the same time, it just goes to underscore, when there's a lot of school buses and a lot of kids and everything else traveling through that intersection, that it can be dangerous. So, we had done traffic studies in conjunction with both of those developments going in, and, all the different solutions that did not involve a roundabout still really left the intersection at a failing grade. So, a roundabout was really decided on the way to go. PennDOT owns one of those roads, Route 82. And so we really needed to do this in conjunction with PennDOT. And we were lucky enough to get this funding. So that's pretty exciting. It's funny because I think with the pandemic, the buses haven't been coming. There's not as many after school sports or activities or whatever. So there's some of the folks that live there that were saying on Facebook the other day, like, I'm not sure they need to do this. It all looks fine. And so I thought that was kind of ironic, because everybody was worried about it being a disaster up front. So we planned to make it better and everything else. And then, another like, no, 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 it's fine. Don't bother. But I think really, everybody knows, particularly with the trucks that go through there, that we do need to do some intersection improvements. And it's nice that we got the funding, because that'll really take the bulk of the expense off our local taxpayers.
That is awesome. COVID's changed so much. It's unbelievable. It's given us such a skewed idea of what our problems are, because my community is just right off 52. And normally it is rocking with cars. And I mean, there are cars, but it's definitely changed. People aren't out and about, and there isn't as much truck traffic. So I think this is almost like, what is it? Karnak, was that the guy who was able to see into the future? It's almost great timing, because get the studies done, get it engineered, and get it done, because that backs up all the way to what. Oh, gee, I'm bad on roads.
Oh,
Anyway,
goodness.
go
I
back
mean,
to
it backs up certainly until in front of the high school, and sometimes, seems like
beyond.
it's gonna go
Yeah.
farther there at South Street. But, I think we got really lucky with the Kaolin Bridge, right? Because there weren't as many buses that needed to go over that as well, and that got repaired during the pandemic. So that was pretty good. So we've gotten, COVID certainly hasn't been anything you'd wish for, but it has made a couple of big projects a little easier to get done
Yeah.
with inconveniencing fewer people.
Wow. And you know what? Speaking of COVID, are you going to continue to do those COVID updates? Because it looks like it's shifting again a little bit.
Yeah, I try and do them every 7 to 10 days. Mostly, at one point I was doing them every 7 days, and we were getting some complaints it was too much. And then, I went to 2 weeks, but now things are getting up again. So I'm trying to find that fine point. And really, the metrics that I post are are meant so people can kind of see the trend in the numbers.
Right.
Because if you look at the COVID dashboards for the county, I actually had those pulled up because I didn't know if anybody'd ask about that stuff. So let me see if I can actually pull it up here. So I'll share screen. So here's the COVID dashboard.
Oh,
So when you look at this, it shows you a little bit about the distribution of who's getting sick, who's been there. Again, this is Chester County. A little doubt here. This is the percentages in the last 30 days, but to me, that's a hard number to understand.
yeah.
Total case count's a little bit easier to understand, but it's really what is the rate at which cases are changing. Newland and East and West Marlboro here used to be at 0 for forever, but then they started going up. So, and if you click on this, you'll see the number, the total percent of the population that's been infected, the number of cases, and the number of deaths. We've had over 6 deaths here, or we've had 6 deaths here in Kennett Township, same in the borough, but they've had 10% of their population infected, so it's a lot higher. And if you look at the last 30 days percent, if you click through, you'll get a sense of where are the deaths happening. So there's been a death in East Nottingham, for example. But I think part of the thing that people forget about COVID is it's not binary about alive or dead. It's really the long-term problems. There are people with long haul syndrome. There's been studies that have said people may have a greater incidence of dementia, that there are lung and heart issues and even neurological issues that may resolve or not. We just don't really know yet. So those are the reasons why, if anybody has a chance to get a vaccine, you can go again to the Chester County COVID website here. You can register for the vaccine, and there are a lot more appointments available. In fact, I think Matt Fedek was saying there were more appointments available this Saturday at the clinic he's running down at Kennett Fire Company. They're doing the Moderna vaccine. So hopefully that'll work out.
Yeah, that's good.
Hey, Isabel, thank you for dialing in. Do you have a question that I can answer? You're going to have to unmute yourself. Okay, well, feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question if you've got one. I'll stop sharing my screen so you guys don't have to watch me surf through the internet, because that's only so entertaining for so long. So we've got that. So what else is on your mind, people?
Wow.
Let's see, we've got a meeting tomorrow night. Oh, hey, Isabel.
Hi, I missed part of this because I was mowing my lawn, and I was wondering, what did you say about the roundabout, when they were going to start it or whatever? I couldn't read the picture because it was too small on the download, and it came up too little, and I can't tell where the road's going to go.
Okay. Yeah, so the road is it's going to be more of an oval rather than a perfect round.
Yeah.
It's going to hit in that intersection, I believe, part of the corner over by Mr. Angelini's property, and the mushroom property is gonna be there. I would have to take a look at the drawings, but it's gonna be right there at the corner. And I think they're looking to start the project sort of by the end of the year, so sometime in 2021.
Who's Mr. Angelini?
He's it's not South Mill Mushroom.
Oh, you mean right next to the field?
Yeah, here, let me look up Google Maps here and
Because we're at the top of the hill by that, right across from that development. So,
here, I will share screen.
You're talking about
Angelini runs-
Angelucci.
Angelini
about
runs,
Angelini, yeah.
Angelini runs Phillips Mushroom.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's
it's
Philip, sorry.
Angelucci.
Thanks very much, Michael. I'm having a brain fart.
okay, but I still don't know who Mr. Angelini is. So,
He owns Phillips Mushroom?
okay, but he owns the field that's there by the corner, correct?
He's
Right.
the-
Uh-huh.
He's the general manager, I believe.
Okay, so then where's his property? The next one down Ellers?
Can you see the screen?
Yeah,
Okay, so here's one of Phillips Mushroom's houses, and then they own all of this. And then this is where you can go. There's a house here, and then you can go actually buy mushrooms here from Phillips. So they
you
own
mean
a
down
bunch.
off Kaolin.
Right. So here's the 5 Points intersection. So the
Right.
roundabout is going to be like right here. It's probably going to eat a tiny corner of this property, and it's going to be like
Lester's?
this.
Lester's.
I don't think very much of Lester's, really across the street here in the field. So it's going to be mostly the field here.
Okay, but is the road still going to be the same then after you're done?
Well,
I
what's
mean,
going to happen is
Hellendale's still going to be the same road, except it's
Hillendale's going to be
around-
same. All that happens is when you come in here, you'll sort of go around and then get off to wherever you want. You can go straight. You just have to go around a little bit of a bend. So you'll be able to hit any of these roads. The roads themselves are not changing. We're not realigning the roads.
Oh, okay.
We're just putting a roundabout in so you can just go around. So if you've never seen one of these before, drive
Oh,
straight
yes,
up.
I have. I lived in New Jersey for many years and other places. They have it down here in Middletown and whatever. I know what they look like. I just wasn't sure how far it was cutting in, if it was just going to cut off the end of the road or, you were still going to be the same, and the circle or whatever it's called is going to be up. And in other words, you're saying it's going to go more towards West Hillendale and cut across there, that person's place.
Yeah, because I think everybody's trying to, make sure there's minimal disruptions as much as
Yeah.
possible. Nobody wants anybody to, be uncomfortable, lose property or anything else. But it's
Okay.
clear that that intersection definitely needs to get fixed.
Okay.
Excuse me one quick second. I'm the only one who knows how to turn off the fire alarm.
Jeez.
That's life for you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Wow. At least she's not concerned that there's a fire. That's good.
Yeah, I don't know. I might be concerned about that.
Yeah.
Well, at least her dog's not barking. Oh,
Oh. The best laid plans. Unbelievable.
My family is cooking. And so, as usual, this happens. So now the phone's going to ring in a second, and hopefully they will remember what the password is for the company. Otherwise, it's
Write it
going
on
to be
the fire
exciting,
alarm.
and we'll have AJ here too. So,
Welcome to real life. Yeah.
yeah.
oh my God.
It's nice of you to have a demonstration too, Whitney.
Absolutely. Isn't it lovely? It's cinema verite, whether you like it or
Right.
not, this is what
Oh
life
my
is like. So. All right, look, one more second. I'm sorry. Please talk among yourselves. Hello? Password is James. You too. Thank you.
I believe him. He wanted to do chicken marsala.
Yeah, but why do you ferment it? So.
She does have the patience of Job. I have to hand it to her.
You're not kidding me. And I would
And
be pulling
you
my
guys can
hair.
come over for chicken marsala in a little bit. So, you know. Though I think it may be a little toastier than you might want.
might be
It
burnt.
might be burnt.
Yeah, right.
That happens with my toaster for some reason. It always does that. And the dogs go crazy because they're so scared of it,
Oh, yeah. Oh, the noise. Sure.
of the noise, right? They all run around and hide because they think the house is on fire.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, and ours, we've got a Bernedoodle, and he is particularly unfond of thunderstorms, so he runs upstairs. And
Oh, I've heard him before when you were on here.
yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, that's all right. I'm used to it. I have a whole bunch. So
Well, it's so funny because we'll be in tangent meetings and everything, and I have to talk and everything. But the dog decides that he spends time with me in my office here during the day. I work from home, but I close the office doors to try and keep him out and whatever. And that's the moment that he has to come in.
well, that's when mine start crying though, because I wasn't home that much before, and now I'm home all the time. And as soon as they can't see me, they're crying. I'm surprised they're not doing it right now.
Oh,
Yeah, absolutely.
wow.
Okay, and I have one more question
Yeah.
about the bike trail. It doesn't come up the street, correct? It just goes across down at the bottom of Hillendale, down towards that little bridge there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, let me share the screen and we can take
Going
a peek
into
at that.
or is it going into Falcon's Lair or whatever that is? No, whatever that is behind me.
Yeah, here. So we will blow this up a little bit here. So this is Hillendale. So we come down Hillendale here. Here's everything at Sinclair Springs. Isabel, where do you live?
Right across the street from Sinclair Springs.
Okay, so you're right in here.
We're right
112,
at the
114.
top of the hill.
Okay. All right. So as you come down here, here's Chandler Mill Road. So
Yeah.
the trail is going to, kind of go here, so it connects up with the Pennock Trail, which is over here a little bit. But it's going to go all the way down Chandler Mill Road, all the way down to where the Land Conservancy is here at the bottom.
Right, where the little bridge used to be, or
Yeah,
well, it
yep.
is, but you can't use it.
Right, absolutely. So it's going to go all the way down here.
Okay. So
And that-
are you making that road a one-way street or not?
No, there will be tiny areas where it will be one way for like 100 yards, 200 yards. I'd have to double check the plans, but yeah, basically we're not making it one way. I just couldn't see that would work out. I know a lot of people who live here in Round Hill, and the only thing that I thought would make any sense is if you made it one way going north, not going south. If you made it going south, you're trapping everybody in here, and then people
Yeah.
are trying to get out on Keolin, and it'd just be a nightmare.
Yeah,
So
that was my question because of that V at Keolin. Once you close the end of the street, then we have to go all the way down the bottom and come around and come out at the V to go to Delaware or Maryland or whatever.
Yeah, no, it just seemed to be too crazy. So I think making sure that we keep that two-way is really important.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, and the fire companies looked at it and they think it's fine. And with the new agreement with the fire companies too, the lower half of Kennet Township will actually be getting some additional EMS support from Hockessin Fire Company, so they'll actually get a faster response than they were getting before.
Oh, okay.
So that should make sure everybody's safe.
Okay.
Is there anything else that's on your mind?
I don't know. I wasn't expecting to get on here and I will talk, and I kind of like lost what I was thinking about.
Hey, that's okay. Chip in. This is just a conversation between friends and neighbors. So we're just chatting.
Oh,
Lisa?
and does Keolin Road, after you get around the curve and the bridge, belong to the township? Because that is really bad going through there. There's giant holes in the road and big potholes. And if you hit your tire on that, you get a flat tire. It's really bad when I came down a week ago.
What part of Keolin?
Like, you know, when you go down the bridge and then you turn towards Delaware,
Uh-huh.
all the way through the woods there where they put up the new railing and stuff.
Yeah. I think that is part of 82, so I think it's a PennDOT road. But what I can do is I'll go ahead and I'll ping Roger, because Roger will make sure that they take a look at it.
Yeah, because
So,
once before I asked Roger and he said, because I got a flat tire there like about 5 years ago, right around that curve, and I couldn't get out of there and I had to go up by that Hartfeld or whatever, and people were
Mhm.
zipping by. But anyway, this is farther closer to where you make the turn by the bridge. I mean, it's huge.
okay.
Like you could drop your tire in there. When I was coming down here a week ago, I went around there and I was like, oh gosh, thank God. And my eyes are bad. And thank goodness it was bright out.
Well, absolutely. I'll make sure that I text Roger about it. You know, again, the poor guy has to deal with trying to keep track of 15 miles of road. So it's always
Yeah,
good when we have people call things in when they see them, because you know, when we've got freeze and thaws and everything else, or you've got a big truck that goes by and
right.
exacerbates something that's opened up, they can open up pretty quickly. So
Now, when they do the circle, are those big trucks going to be able to go up and down Hillendale?
well, you know, we certainly don't want to put any more trucks on Hillendale than we've got, but the whole idea is to make sure that, you know, as the trucks are coming out of Phillips Mushroom or whatever, that they can negotiate the turn a whole lot better. You know, we don't want to put any more traffic in there, but we do want to make it safer.
I just don't know how they can swing those giant things through a circle or whatever it's going to be.
You know, it's amazing because we've seen the engineering. They had a video that they had at a township meeting at one point. The way they design it, because this is going to be an oval and part of the middle is
Right.
going to be flat. I don't know if they'll be able to put something in the middle or not, but it really should be negotiable because you know, because it's really important. There's a lot of school buses and a lot of trucks that go through there, so it's got to be negotiable by them.
Okay, well, not that we're happy about the trucks, but
Right. But it's you know, these are the people in our neighborhood, right?
yeah, I guess.
We all have to share the road and everything else, and the mushroom farms were here first, so.
Right. Well, yes. Well, not first before my house. We've been there for 75 years. So I don't
That's
think
fantastic.
we were on the first house on the top of the hill before anything was developed. So, I mean, I wasn't there then, but my husband's family.
Wow.
Well, that's great that the family's been here for all that time. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So Isabel,
Yes. Oh,
you
where are
have
you?
probably the biggest idea of how the township has changed over the years. What do you think is good about the changes, and where would you like to see, what else would you like to see to come to the township?
Oh, I don't know. I wasn't happy with that development across the street, but I'll be honest with you now. It's done very nicely and the sidewalks are nice and it's kept nice and I can walk my little dogs through there and nobody bothers me and the people are friendly. So compared to the mess it was before, I guess I can say that I'm happier with it.
Well, good. I'm glad because I know that that was a big change. And you know, I know that in the Stonehouse one that's around the corner, as they're starting to finish that up, they've
Yeah,
got to put in the trails for there too. So hopefully, the idea is eventually all these things will hook up, so you'll have better
right.
and safer places to walk.
Yeah, right. And before I had no place to walk. So, I can take them across there with their little baggies and walk them around the development and they're happy and they meet other little dogs and whatever in their stroller and whatever.
What kind of dogs do you have?
Um, I have an Australian Shepherd, Maltipoo, a, another, well, I don't know what he is. He's a Shih Tzu poo and a dying little old Australian Shepherd, and he's in the process of dying right now. So,
Oh, I'm so
Alright.
sorry, Isabel.
well, I adopted him when he was 16, and I knew, he had a crushed trachea when I got him, and now he's
my
in
God.
terrible heart failure. And I thought he was going to die last night because he wouldn't eat and he couldn't go to the bathroom and whatever, but he's amazing. You know, every time I think he just like perks up and then he's all right the next day. And then a couple days later, he doesn't feel good, but he's going to go, but it's real hard.
It is hard.
But you know, when you adopt, I only want old dogs because I'm old. When you adopt old dogs, you know that that's going to happen. So you have to get used to it, but it's real hard to get used to.
But didn't you give them the best possible life? I mean, on the way.
That's
out.
what we did. Yeah, that's what we did. And we
That's
know,
what it's all about.
yep, yep. Probably nobody else would have took him. He has no teeth. I have to
Oh.
grind his, I don't have to grind his food up. He's got a ruined liver and
Oh
poor
my
little
goodness.
dude. And he has rubber legs, I think, because he can fall down, hurt his paw, be screaming, and 5 minutes later he's up running around. It makes he's an amazing dog.
Oh,
Wow.
Well,
Yeah.
it's so nice of you to make sure that, he's well taken care of. I'm sure he loves being with you guys.
Yeah, he goes
And-
for his little stroller ride. That's what he doesn't walk much anymore. So I put him in the stroller with the other little old one, and then we go for a walk.
That sounds great.
Somebody was telling me in Japan, most of the dogs take walks in the stroller.
Yeah, yeah, I heard that too.
Yeah.
And they keep their dogs forever. You never give away a dog. It's the law that you have to keep it till it dies.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
That's not always good for the dog, I would imagine. Wow.
No, but you know when they have to go. It's like this one. I know he'll know when he has to
Yeah.
go, you know.
Yeah.
And we have a great vet, so
Oh, good.
he'll do anything. I've been going to him for 35 years. So,
Who do you use?
well, we have another house in Maryland, so I'm down here now. We use Middletown Vet in Middletown, Delaware. And we come all the way down here if there's anything wrong with our dogs. They get all their shots and everything. If they get kenneled, they get kenneled there. They know us forever.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, that makes it easier.
Yeah, right. It does.
We moved up
Well,
here.
anyway,
in
I'm done with my
2000
question. What's that, honey?
Oh, I was just going to say, we moved up here in 2004 from down near Bear. We lived in a
Oh, did
little
you?
development that was right near Lum's Pond. So we used to live
Oh,
down
yeah,
there.
yeah. Yeah. I lived in Newark. My ex-husband and I had a business in Newark for, I don't know how many, 20 years. So we were in Bear, we were in Newark, we were everywhere. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you calling in and asking all sorts of questions because, it's really important, and I'm really glad to hear that you're getting some benefit from the development across the street. That's really good to know too.
Yeah. Well, I guess I wanted you guys to know that because we were really against it. We were. I
Sure.
mean, we came to the meeting and we complained and whatever, but now, like I said, they keep it decent. They do their roads, when I complained to the guy about the light in my window, he turned it off. The man that built the development, I don't know
Yeah.
who's taking care of it now with the sewer
Taking
system.
away
He
and
broke my window, he replaced it. So I don't have really a complaint about anything that they've done.
Great. Well, that's really good to know.
I
Thank you
was-
very much.
I
Oh,
was
you're welcome.
I was talking to a woman on the phone who reached out to me through friends of the library, and she's relatively new to the area. She had lived here for a while. She and her husband had moved further south to retire, and her husband just suddenly passed away. She wanted to move back to the area. She started looking at houses and realized she doesn't want to own and take care of a house by herself. So those things going up were just everything to her, and she loves it because there are people all around her. She's not
Right.
as she
And
otherwise.
they're there all the time because when I walk through, they must all work at home because there's a lot of young people, so they have to work at home and their cars never move. So I'm sure they must be working from home.
Well, and that's the thing that the woman said to me was that there's a real cross section of people there. So she
Yeah.
gets to see the young people with the young kids. There's a little bit of everybody there, and she feels like she had an instant community. So that made me really happy for her.
Yeah, yeah. And that's true. I understand that because you get to a point where, gosh, I'm tired of cutting the lawn. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of that. We own 3 houses, so we're not home all the time. But
Wow.
still, it's a lot of work. It's really a lot of work.
Yeah.
It definitely is. I mean, I think, I know that I took a walk with some folks over at Stonehouse recently, and one of the guys there is a pilot or works with American Airlines. So he's always off and about. So it's nice that there's a really interesting cross section of folks. There was somebody else who had moved there from Avondale to be a little closer in. So it's great. And certainly, I imagine that there's got to be some people who've got kids in the high school who can't be more excited because, if they have to go to games, it's a hop, skip, and a throw
I
away.
don't see too many teenagers though. The bus comes in and I think one kid gets off of it unless they all get homeschooled or something. There's a couple little kids, but I hardly see anybody, but they do ride around the circle because I was in there when they were dropping them off, but I only saw them drop one kid. So I don't know.
Yeah, and with schools being half hybrid and some are in person and whatever, it's hard to figure out who's where. So,
Right. That's true. Yeah.
hey, Lisa, did you want to unmute and ask any questions or?
I guess not.
Oh, poor Michael signed off. He had to go. So, well, this is fun. It's just nice, to be able to sit down and chat with people and figure out what's going on in the neighborhood and the things that are important and everything else. Does anybody have any more questions? It's getting towards 8 o'clock. So,
One more question. What happened
Yeah.
with the woman that took the money? I
So,
never got an answer.
well, and I wish there was an answer, but the DA is still prosecuting the case.
Oh,
So
okay.
apparently she's in the process of, I guess she's either going to plea out or it's going to go to trial. A lot of things got put out because of COVID.
Right.
So
Right.
that's still going. So we're still waiting on the deposition on that. Nobody's more anxious to see the end of that than me.
Right.
But unfortunately we have to wait for the DA to do what the DA does. So
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure what happened there because I was reading the letter and it didn't seem to have an answer. So I didn't know if you had an answer or it was dropped or anything.
no, it's definitely not dropped. That's for sure. But there's just these things. It's
Yeah,
the old
right.
thing they tell you in law school is the wheels of government grind, grind incredibly slowly, but they do grind very fine. So.
Yeah.
We're just, nobody's more anxious than me to get it done, but it's really out of our hands because it's in law enforcement.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's fine. Good answer.
Lisa, did you want to add? Hey, how are you?
Hey, sorry, I was kind of multitasking while I was listening.
That is totally fine.
Yeah, it's one of those days, and then we had it interrupted with a lacrosse game, and those 3:30 in the afternoon lacrosse games when people work is not the easiest thing. But anyway, I just wanted to listen in and say hi and support you, and thanks for doing this. So no specific question.
It's funny, I really miss our in-person meetings because you don't really get to see everybody. And, when there's 40 people on a Zoom call, that's one thing, but it's not the same as just having conversations in the parking lot or before or after the meeting and just getting to see your friends and neighbors. And, that's one of the things that I'm glad, we've gotten vaccinated is I've got another week before I hit, full immunity. But even then, just being able to see people in person is just such a nice thing.
I know
Welcome.
it's such a treat we took for granted before, right? And now it's like when you see people, it's like so exciting to get to see other people besides your family that you see every day. So
well, that's it. And we're going to have to figure out how to get back to in-person meetings. Part of it's trying to follow the state guidelines for that. But, we're sort of in that in-between spot where, the last thing that I want to have happen is there are some people who are more medically vulnerable. And I just really don't want them to be, there are variants that are really infectious that are around. And when you've got a 3-hour township meeting and everybody's basically there kind of, for lack of a better word, swimming in each other's breath juices, you want to make sure that you keep people healthy. So, we're trying to figure out what it's going to look like afterwards. And if we can do kind of hybrid meetings where, poor Gretchen's going to have to try and keep notes and, deal with folks zooming in at the same time as being in person, or how we're going to do it. But those are the things that we're looking at now. I don't think we have any good answers, but we'll certainly let everybody know as soon as we figure it out.
Well, that sure would be a better thing, because when you have to go, I am very medically vulnerable. I haven't been out of my house for 14 months, so except back and forth. But I don't want to have to go to those meetings, but doing and being able to see what you're saying and the newsletters you put really helps. And if you could do it hybrid so we could see that too while you're having the meeting, it would be a help to me anyway.
Yeah, no, I think it's really important. I mean, I think the thing that we really realized by having all these Zoom meetings is how many people come and more people engage than they have before. And that's really terrific, because more people being part of and being able to voice their opinions and really participate, that's really what this should all be about. I want the government to be transparent, and I want everybody to feel like they've got easy access and can just ask questions when they've got them, and participate, and that we can get the information out too. It's one of the reasons why we started streaming the meetings, and hopefully we'll be able to continue that as well.
Well, that will be very good for me.
Okay. I will definitely make sure that I put that in my notes and everything, Isabel, because I think that that's important. And knowing that for someone like you who really wants to participate, that having that hybrid is really important is something that's good to know while we're trying to figure all this stuff out.
Right. And sometime you go to those meetings and they last forever, and I have to take my medicine at a certain time, and I missed my medicine, and I can't be sitting there while I'm taking my medicine. So, it's important, if you can sit in your house, do what you have to do, and be able to participate and hear other people's opinion. And, a lot of times you don't get to talk at the meeting when there's so many people there anyway.
Well, that's it. And I think the chat function is good for that, in terms of being able to, ask questions and make sure that they get announced at the meeting, and that everybody gets to have a say. Because again, if people don't tell me what's going on or what's on their mind, there's not a lot, I don't know, and I can't act
Right.
on that.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so this is good.
Okay. Well, thank you. I guess you ought to get off at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you everybody for coming.